It was a morning of intense questions and mounting criticism for Postmaster General Louis DeJoy over the sweeping changes he's made to the U.S. Postal Service. Since the Republican mega donor took office 2 months ago, postal workers have reported the removal of mail sorting machines, cuts to worker overtime, the removal of mailboxes around the nation, and a tightening on rules for when trucks must leave processing centers, regardless of whether they are fully packed. Now, that has led to widespread concern about the Postal Service's capability to handle ballots for the November election, which is expected to see record mail voting due to the pandemic. Earlier this week, DeJoy agreed to pause plans for additional changes until after the election, but he is not rolling back what he has already done. He defended his moves to remove mail sorting machines and cut overtime as cost-cutting measures and claims his decisions have nothing to do with voting.
Our business model, established by the Congress, requires us to pay our bills through our own efforts. I view it as my personal obligation to put the organization in a position to fulfill that mandate.
Will you be bringing back any mail sorting machines that have been removed since you've become Postmaster General?
There's no intention to do that. They're not needed, sir.
So you will not bring back any processors?
They're not needed, sir.
And do you support absentee voting, and do you support voting by mail generally?
I voted by mail for a number of years. I think the American public should be able to vote by mail, and the Postal Service will support it. So I guess that's yes.
Would you advise them to wait till the last minute, or would you advise them to leave at least a week?
The general word around here is vote early.
You didn't do any analysis to see how seniors would be impacted. Okay, let's move on. Did you do an analysis to see how veterans might be impacted, knowing that so many of our postal workers are veterans? We employ so many veterans that they aren't getting their medication and that they rely on 80%. Did you do a specific analysis to see how veterans would be impacted?
The only change that I made, ma'am, was that the trucks leave on time. Theoretically, everyone should have got their mail faster.
CBSN political contributor and veteran Capitol Hill reporter Molly Hooper joins me now with more on this hearing. Hi, Molly. Great to see you. Let's hone in on that last clip for a second where DeJoy said, all I did was make the trucks leave on time. But what that actually means in practice is trucks are leaving processing plants without all the mail when sorting runs late. So in the past, postal workers say they would wait to be fully loaded. Help us understand the impact DeJoy's changes are actually having.
Well, DeJoy said that that's actually the reason why the mail is not getting to people as quickly as it should get to people. And that's a big problem. But he said that now that the trains or the trucks are actually leaving the processing centers on time, that there's an effort to catch up all the processing to the truck schedules. And so he said this will take maybe, he thought it would only take a few days, but it's obviously taken longer than that. And I think that that's where you're getting this issue of people not getting their prescription drugs on time, not getting checks in the mail as quickly as they had anticipated. But really, that was the biggest problem. It wasn't the lack of, he said, it wasn't the lack of sorting machines. It wasn't the lack of blue boxes, the mailboxes we see on the street. It had to do with the fact that the mail was essentially being left on the dock because the trucks were going at the time they're supposed to go, as opposed to waiting until they were fully full.
And then we did hear DeJoy say that changes that he's already made, such as the removal of sorting machines, which I think is the big one that really, have a lot of people scratching their heads. He's saying that that is staying in place. What impact could fewer sorting machines have on mail voting for November?
Well, ostensibly, the effect is it's just going to take longer for that mail to be sorted and sent back to local precincts or to the state election board to tally up the votes. And that's why earlier this week, or excuse me, last week, we saw a letter go out to secretaries of state and state election boards saying, hey, just so you know, things are a little bit slower now. We have these processes in place. You need to be classifying your mail as first class mail so that it's 2 to 5 days, as opposed to using bulk mail, which is 3 to 10 days delivery. When it comes to mail-in ballots, it would probably be good to get all of your mail-in ballot procedures in place right now. I mean, there's a number of states that will allow mail-in ballots to be essentially delivered the day of the election or the day before the election, and it's almost impossible to turn that around to get those ballots back to the state election boards the next day. It's just not possible. So this letter that DeJoy sent out, and actually it was the general counsel said, hey, just so you know, we do have a few delays. Why don't state election boards, you need to be communicating with your local precincts and have them sort of get their procedures in place so there isn't last-minute mail-in balloting and mail-in voting. So because it will take a little bit longer to count the votes. Oh, pardon me.
Okay. No. Thanks for finishing that off. So, Molly, DeJoy repeatedly did say today that he ultimately wants the Postal Service to be self-sustaining, claiming that it has a $10 billion budget shortfall. But help us understand the unique accounting rules that put the USPS in this bind. And why exactly is the post office expected to be self-sustaining when other federal agencies that are considered essential, like the military, are not?
Well, the post office is like about sort of a quasi-governmental office that does have to essentially, it's its own business. It has to pay for itself. And so cost cutting has to happen in order to pay the bills, essentially. And with the lower volume of first class mail that's being sent, the higher percentage of parcels being sent, the rates just aren't keeping up with the amount of money that the USPS, the Postal Service, is actually spending. And again, because it is not like the military, the USPS does have to be self-sustaining. And if it continues going at its current rate, DeJoy says they could be $245 billion in the hole over the next 10 years. But the challenge for the USPS is that it's not as if it is a private business where an executive can make whatever decisions he wants. Like, hey, no more overtime. Hey, no more additional additional routes to be taken. No. He has to get approval from a board of governors, a postal regulatory commission. Congress is the one that has to actually implement some of these changes that DeJoy really wants to move forward with after the election, which would include raising the rates of packages, raising the rates of first-class mail, eliminating, and there's this issue of the last mile that the USPS will take for private businesses like UPS and FedEx, that the Postal Service wants to increase those rates on. But again, Congress really needs to get involved and make those changes, because the Postmaster General he is not a CEO, but he's expected to act to have results like a CEO. And unless Congress gets involved, the USPS is going to have a lot of problems.
Complicated indeed. All right. Well, Molly Hooper, thank you so much for your insight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.